Okay, today basically we're going to make a basketball frame and rim. So the frame needs to look like this. I did add a couple things to it since I originally did this drawing. You do need to put a 1/2-inch piece of polycarbonate, smoked polycarbonate on the front of it like you typically see on a basketball rim. You do need to put some holes in the bottom plate, 1 inch by 1 inch from the corner, 1 inch diameter, and put 4 bolts in it, so like you'd bolt it to a piece of concrete. Okay, so those are kind of the additions, and they're listed in the instructions. Alright, so there's a sketch that basically goes into how to draw this. Okay, so we're going to do it in 3D. It's a little different than what we've seen before probably. Okay. Can't hardly see that. Okay, so it's 18 inches long, and we'll be centered on that. The bottom plate is 18 inches long. Alright, so the first thing we need to do is make a project. So if we go into new from the file menu and pick projects and pick new again. Next, let's call it basketball pole, I guess. Make sure you're saving it wherever you want to save it. Your U drive or okay, and then finish. Once you pick the folder, finish it. It'll automatically save everything there. Okay, now the next thing we want to do is, so we're going to create a standard part with a 3D sketch in it like this, okay? And I think it's all one 3D sketch, so it's definitely a lot simpler than the dune buggy we did. But it'll be some good practice on Inventor. And then we want to make sure we put it into a weldment assembly this time, not a standard assembly, okay? So it's a little bit different there. Alright, so go ahead and pick standard part first of all. And we're going to go right into a 3D sketch and basically sketch this whole plot. Now you got to be really careful that you're going correctly in the correct axis. I know it's kind of hard to see this, but you're basically, hopefully you can kind of see this, the outline of all these tubes. I'm going to do it in front of you so we can do it together. Alright, so we start a 3D sketch, okay, and just pick a regular old line, and I'm going to go to more of a top front right view, okay. Now notice all 3 axes. We're going to start off at the origin, and we're going to go straight back along the, notice the blue Z axis. We're going to go straight back along the Z axis 18 inches. Okay, so I'm moving in the Z direction, and I'm going to type 18 and then enter. Okay, now give me an 18-inch long line. I'm basically going to hit escape to get out of that one, alright, because I want to draw right in this middle of that line, straight up. So I go back and pick line again after I hit escape, and I find the midpoint of that line. There it is right there, I had it. Make sure you get on it or it won't be locked down. It's not going to be locked down very well on this one anyway, but okay, and this one, the height is 120, 10-foot tall rim, right? So go straight up from the midpoint of that first line you drew, type in 120. I got off the screen, so I'm going to have to do it again. Straight up 120. Okay, now it gets a little bit tricky. So we're right here. We're going to go straight out on the rim. It looks like 42 inches. So that would again be in the Z, okay, towards you, 42 inches. Okay, so we're drawing this line right here. Okay. All right, now you kind of need to just trace around the backboard. So basically we're right here on this point. We're going to go over 36, and we're going to go up 42, back 72, and then back down and close it off. And then we'll just add all these other lines and circles. Okay, so I'm right here at 42 out. I'm going to go back this way at 36, if it'll let me. I gotta quit switching screens. It always knocks me out of it when I do that. I don't know if I was on it. You gotta be real careful and make sure you actually are on the correct position. It looked like I picked the wrong position there a little bit ago. Knocked it out of whack. So 36, and then straight up 42. And then straight over on the x-axis 72, and straight down again 42. So we're drawing the backboard at this point, and then back to where we started. Make sure you get on the green dot when you do it. Okay. Now next one I'd probably do is just draw the bottom part of that backboard. So it drops down 6, goes over 72, and then back up. So it doesn't matter which side you really start at. I'm starting right here. Go straight down 6, and over 72, and back up 6. So this 3D sketch works really good, especially when you're just doing nice square items like this. Okay. There is a bar right in the middle, looks like, so we got to add that stick figure right in the middle all the way down. I'm going to pick on the midpoint of this one. I'm going to go all the way to the top. Sure I'm in the midpoint of it. Okay. Okay, so this is the basis of the whole basketball pole. It doesn't have the rim. At this point, it'd probably be a good idea to go ahead and lock all those so they can't move on you, because they're probably going to want to move. So I'm just going to window all them and then lock them, because I know they're all correct. Okay, so I fully locked them down now by using the lock constraint. Okay, so I windowed them all and then hit the lock to lock them down. Okay, now we got to work on the rim. The rim's a little bit tricky. So the first thing I'm going to do is basically create these braces. Okay, so it looks like they're 3 inches away from the middle. So I'm just going to freehand it in there and then add the 3-inch dimension. Okay. Probably do one thing at a time so it doesn't get completely out of whack. So draw a line and just make sure you're on this line somewhere. It doesn't matter where. And then the Z again, go out. Looks like it goes out 6. Okay. And I'm going to tell it that that line is 3 inches from this line. Let's see if it'll work. Hopefully. Dimension it from this line to this point. It'll let me. Doesn't want to let me, of course. Let me try 2 points from that point to this point here. Yep, it is doing 2 points, so that did work. All right, so I did a two points dimension and told it was 3. Okay. All right, and you can kind of see it if I spin it a little bit, probably a little better. Okay, now I'm gonna do the same thing on the other side. Draw a line over there and then dimension it at 3. Make sure it's on that line itself. Go the right direction until it's 6 long. Throw a dimension across there, 3. Point to point. Usually we don't do point to point, but 3D it's making you do it. Okay, those are both locked down, so that's good. Now we want to draw a diagonal down to that base. Okay, so again, draw two lines at a little bit of a diagonal from this one here down to the corner. Another one over here. Right back up to it, I guess. Okay. Now the rim's always difficult. So I'm going to read the instructions to make sure I don't run into 10,000 kinds of trouble here. Okay, so we're going to have to do all this stuff. So we're going to use arc center point after we do our construction lines. Okay, so the construction lines, it looks like it goes from here out. Total distance, it's got a 9-inch radius. And this goes to the center. How do I get that drawn to the center? Is there any other dimension I have on there? 9-inch radius on the rim. Okay, there's no line. There is a line across there, a diagonal. Alright, so I'm going to pick line. And I think there's a construction line. Yeah, I'm going to turn the construction line on. Okay. And I'm going to go basically just a line out here as far as I can. Okay. Or a little bit extra. On construction, yeah. So from the center point here, so I'm going to draw this real long one here, just extra long. Okay. Right in the middle. And that'll give me a line, a place to put my center point on. That's the only reason I'm doing that. So it doesn't really have a distance. So I just drew it out there wherever. Okay. And now I'm going to draw another line from the angle brace point to that line, and I'll tell it that it's 9. Okay. Now basically give me a place to put my circle. So that's just a construction line. So from there to here, I'll snap to it if it lets me and type in 9. And it of course went too far, so I'm going to do undo and do it again. And I'll just tell it 9 after I put it in, maybe. Hopefully that'll work. Not wanting to go to it very well, but it is going to it. Okay, now I'm going to put a dimension on there at 9 inches, and hopefully it'll stay on it. And it did, so good. Okay, so now we've got a line along the z-axis, and I've got a line that's 9 inches across, which is basically the radius of my arc. Okay, so it says in the instructions, because I had a hard time when I first did this lab trying to get that darn circle to work, but it won't make a tube if it's perfectly round. It has to have a beginning and an end. Okay, so we want to use arc center with the construction lines and dims extended as we need to. All right, so we'll see if we can get that to work. So draw. There's arc. 3-point center point. Okay, so I'll pick the center point. Okay, select the center. Alright, there's the center. And there's one point right here. And the other point would be right here. Okay, and now I'll see if I can extend that and later turn it. Yeah, I shouldn't have made a construction line. Go ahead and fix that right now. Touch it and touch the construction line, it goes away. Now we're going to try to extend it. Hopefully it'll extend, or when, and it's airing out. Okay, so I probably have to delete a dimension or two for it to extend. Which one does it say? Delete the 6-inch dimension to let it extend, which is kind of crazy, but so I've deleted that, and let's try again. We'll add it back in later. Sometimes the programs don't always work. Maybe I have to delete the 9-inch one. Maybe that 3-inch. Yep, that worked. Okay, let me extend it now. I add all those dimensions back in. Looks like everything stayed where it belongs, so that's good. Okay. And I need the 6-inch dimension. Notice it doesn't always work perfect because this thing stayed purple even though I took a 6-inch dimension off of it, which it really you wouldn't think it would have, but it did. So the 3D sketch isn't the most says it doesn't need that one. Okay, so that's fine. Of course this line's not locked down anymore. I don't really know why. It says it can move, but it can't. I'm going to tell that this line is on the z-axis and see if that does anything. Won't let me do that anyway. At this point, they are all the dimensions and everything are right, so I'm going to go ahead and just pick those two and put a lock on them. Hold down the control key to pick more than one at a time. Usually I recommend not doing that, but in 3D sketches you don't have a lot of options. Okay, now it's fully locked. Okay, everything looks right. I've got all my dimensions. I don't see anything sticking out or extended too far or trimmed off, which would be a problem. Okay. So that's kind of what you're going for. So now you've got a good stick figure of the whole rim. Okay, now this rim isn't like the dune buggy. It's basically going to have multiple kinds of metal in it, as we'll see here in a little bit. And then we'll modify some of the metals too as we go. Pretty simple one. Alright, so save it. Yeah, you gotta finish your sketch first, of course, and then save it. And just call it basketball pole or something like that. Alright, so bring that into your weldment assembly. So file, new. You gotta pick on the first new so you can actually get to see the weldment assembly, and then pick out weldment IAM. Make sure you pick the weldment one. Create. Okay, this is basically the same as a regular one, except you can notice you got a weld tab now with a bunch of things you can do right there. I think everything else is still exactly the same though. Okay, so to begin with, we're going to make all those tubes and all that. So go back to the assembly tab and pick place. Hopefully it'll bring up that. It did. Open it, make sure you right click and drop it at the origin. Place grounded at origin. We just want one of them, of course. Okay, so now I think that's the rest of it's pretty easy. I think I've got it pretty much memorized. We're basically going to put all the metal in there, and we'll put some polycarbonate on for the back side of it. Add that in there, and then we'll drill some holes in it. So this should give you some pretty good practice at Inventor. That's part of the other thing, not just the weldment. So it'd be something similar to a slimmed down version of a final project. Okay, so we've got all that done. Now from here we need to, so on the bill of material it's going to tell you what kind of metal to use. So we'll start off with the easy one. So number 12 here says it's basically 12 by 1, 18 inches long. Alright, so 12 by 1 is a piece of flat bar steel that you just buy from any kind of metal shop. O'Neill Steel or Ryerson, anybody. So we're going to start off with that one, and we go to back to the design tab and pick insert frame tool button. Okay, it says we need to save it first. Do you want to save it? You bet. Basketball rim all over again, or basketball pole. Okay. Okay, once again, insert frame, or maybe it'll bring it up. It did. Okay, so I think we just picked lines again. You might have to spin it. We'll see how it shows up. So it's just, I think it's standard ANSI. Family is ANSI. Drop it down, and we want flat steel. Rectangular tube. Flat bar steel, third one down. That's square. We don't want square. Top one. I should have just looked right at the first one. First one's rectangular flat bar steel. That is what we want. Okay. And then it says the size, the very biggest one they'll let you put in here is the one we're going to use. If it ever pulls it up. There it goes. So scroll all the way down, and 12 by 1. Which you can buy that, and it's hard to unload though. I actually helped unload some metal that big before at my previous job. Alright, now pick the 18-inch long one, and lo and behold, it's going the wrong direction. So don't hit OK yet. So now we got to spin it. So which one of these angles do we use? Probably the only one that says degrees on it, right? Put 90 on there. See what happens. And pick another bar. There, it went perfect. Good. So it was 90. It is centered on everything, so we don't have to do any of that. Notice you can actually use it on different ones. This thing is made out of all steel mild, so we don't have to change that. So just hit apply. I don't think I should have hit apply. Cancel. Do it again. Okay, so pick on there. Okay, because we don't want to hit apply till after we pick all of them. I mean, you could, but it's a lot easier to do them all. So I got that one done. Maybe you do have to hit apply since it's different metal. I think maybe you do. Otherwise, it's going to try to make them all the same. Yeah, we do have to hit apply. It's been a while, right? So hit OK after you hit apply, sorry. Hit OK. Alright, so it'll generate that first one. Alright, it brings it back up. Now we're ready to do the next one. So I think all these big ones are 4x4 tubes from memory. Yeah, 4x4 by 3/16. Nothing fancy there. Pretty standard stuff. That one and that one. The two top one are 4x4 by 3/16. If you work ahead, make sure you miter these with a little gap in it, because you got to put a groove weld in one of them. So like this one would be a true place to put a groove weld. All these I think are 1x2s, right? No, they're 2.5 by 1.5 by 1/8. Okay, so that's what those other ones, rectangular ones. And then these little ones are flat iron. They're 3/8 by 1.5 maybe. Yeah, 1.5 by 3/8 on the flat irons there, and the round tube for the rim. I'm trying to memorize all these right now. So the pipe is a 1/2-inch pipe, 0.147 wall. Okay. Okay, so the first two big ones. We'll pick this one. Oh, we change the metal first. Be a good idea. So drop the ANSI down. Find one that is square tubing. It's about the 6th one down. Square tubing. And then we want 4x4. 3/16 wall. Scroll down until you find 4x4, 3/16. Pretty heavy basketball rim, 1/8 of an inch, probably been plenty, but anyway, that day I decided it was that. I'd go ahead and turn that 90 degree back to 0 until we need it to be 90. It's square, it really ain't going to make any difference, but go ahead and get it back to default. So you pick on that tube, pick on this tube. Okay. And they look pretty good. I don't think anything fancy there. Just hit apply and OK. Okay, so now we're going to do all these. I think they're what are they? 1.5 by 2.5, or are they 1.25? 2.5 by 1.5 by 1/8 wall. Okay, so we got to do all them, and notice which way they're facing. So if you get one that's flipped, you're going to have to do 90 degrees on it. All right. So make sure, notice how they're facing flat, so you could bolt a piece of plexiglass to it. Well, a lot better, or acrylic. Okay. So I'm going to go over here and switch my metal over to 1.5 by 2.5. I probably got to get out of square and go to rectangle. Rectangular tube. Now I should have somewhere in here 2.5 by 1.5. There it is. That's way too thick. There's 1/8. Okay, 2.5 by 1.5, 1/8 wall. And pick the first one and see if it's the right direction. And it is. Yay. Okay, then I'm gonna keep picking. And I got lucky. All mine are the correct direction. I think. Yes, they are. So if they weren't, you'd have to change the angle. Another good reason to go back to default. Okay, hit apply. Hit OK. Just generate all them. Okay, now we're going to make the flat irons, which are these 4. Okay. You can see them. All right. Okay, so we change it back to flat iron, which is the first one. And it's 3/8 by 1.5 is the size. 3/8 is, where is 3/8? It's probably 1.5 by 3/8, knowing this crazy thing. Okay, so let's find 1.5. There's 1.5, yes. Now it's going to 1.5 by 3/8. Find that. There's 1.5 by 3/8. Okay, so usually it says 3/8 first, but not on this one. So 1.5 by 3/8. It is regular old steel. So I'd put these two in first, and notice they're way off their own direction. So let's see here. There's an align button here. I'm going to pick a line. Okay. And now it's looking for something to align to. So I'm going to pick this line right here. And then I'm going to say, okay, but it's aligned wrong, but it's close. So I'm going to say 90 degrees from that. And I got it to go flat. Okay, so I had to pick the align button, and I had to pick a line in the direction I wanted it to go, a line in the direction I wanted to go, and then it was 90 degrees off, so I had to change it 9 degrees. And then I got what I wanted. Now I'm going to pick this one and see if I get the same thing. And it straightened it out good. I can always unpick these with shift if I'm not happy with them. I'm going to go ahead and pick them. Looks like they're picking real nice. So, yeah, they're all lining up real good now that I got the first one straightened out. So we'll stick with that. We'll hit apply. Okay. Okay. And the last one we need to do is the actual tube. Okay. So I think it's just a pipe. Plain old pipe. And it was 1/2 inch by the thickest one they had, if I remember right, which is not very thick, but it's big enough to hold, I think, a regular person, believe it or not, when it's done. We'll find out. Okay, we can't pick it. There was a note in the instructions saying you have to basically break this because it's a solid tube all the way around after I extended it. And of course, Inventor doesn't like that. So we're going to have to cancel out of this at this point and go back into the sketch in the IPT and fix that and make it 2 pieces. So in the instructions, I said if I would have just read my own instructions, be sure to use the split tool on a circle or the frame generator won't work, which it didn't. Okay, so where's the split tool? We got to go back in that 3D sketch, so double click on the 3D sketch. Okay, nice thing about a parametric program, you can always go back and fix it. There's modify, and there's the split tool right there. Splits curves into 2 or more entities. Yay. Okay, select the curve. Got that. Select the portion of the curve to split. Well, I only picked half of it, which I don't really like, but okay, so it's going to split right there, which I like that. The whole front of it's one piece. So I picked those 2 halves. I'm leaving this part off of it. Okay, so that'll be its own little piece, and this will be all one piece. Hopefully that'll make it a little stronger. Okay, I got that done, and then I right-click and hit OK. And I'm going to lock this down. So, well, did it actually split it in half? It split it in half. Be nice if I could join that, but I'm not sure why it split it right there, but we're just going to deal with it. Okay, so we're going to have a couple pieces there, but I think there might be a way to join it. I'll see if I can figure it out when we get into the assembly here. Okay, back in the basketball pole. Guess you got to save that. So finish sketch, save it. Back into your assembly. Looks like it might be one piece in there. Alright, insert frame. Hopefully it'll bring up the same one we had a while ago. It did. Now I pick on it. And I pick on this one. I think there might be a way to join those 2 together. How do we do that? Alright, we have a merge button right there. So I'm going to pick all 3 of them and turn them back into one with a merge. Now they're all 3 one piece. I probably should have done the merge button actually on some of these tubes as well, like the ones going all the way up and so forth. So remember, there is a merge button there. Hit apply. Hit OK. Alright. So some of these on here, like I think I had 2 pieces here and here. This really should be one. Don't know if there's an easy way to fix that at this point. Probably should have merged them. But I'm not going to make you redo it all because of that. But if you do a final, if you do a final project with that based on, make sure you do merge any bars. It would be one piece. Don't have 2 separate ones like this. Okay. So that's basically the basketball rim. Now we basically need to do a miter and notching, and also put the holes down here. I'm not going to do that in a video. So basically, I'll get you started though. So you need 4 holes, 1 by 1 on this one. So it's a good place to probably save. Save that. Yep. I'm just going to show you the weld part, I guess. I'll do that first, and then you guys can go into doing it. So you have to have at least 6 welds, it says. I have to have a couple different kinds. I think I wanted to. Okay, you have to have a groove, and I don't say that in here. I'll update it. You have to have a groove and a fillet weld too. You can't just have all fillet welds because they're too easy. Okay, So these tubes are all going through each other, so you have to fix all that first. So I'm going to miter, okay, those big 45s, and that's a good place to put a groove weld, because the groove basically needs a groove to go into. So these two I'm going to miter together, all right, and I want a space behind them, like maybe, I don't know, 0.25. That's way too probably big. Let's go with 0.1875, 3/16. And I'm going to pick this tube and this tube, and then hit apply, and it should put should bind them together with a little gap, if I did it right. So if we spin it, see there's a gap in there, and you can fill that with a groove weld, okay? Alright, so that could be your groove weld. Now all the other ones, you either miter or notch. Of course, all the way around this outside, you probably need to miter, and then the other ones you need to notch. Okay, so miter, and just go boom, boom, oops. I should have picked the bottom one. Miter, boom, boom, apply. And just keep doing that till you get all the way around it. So you miter the corners basically, right? And these are all going to have gaps, so you can basically fill all them with a groove weld. Okay. And that would be, if you do all 4 of them and that one, that's 5 right there. Then you do need, go ahead and do all your notching. So like for example of a notch would be, this tube is going right into that one. See that? That's not possible. You got to cut it off. So I would pick, I'm on the blue one. So blue gets cut by the yellow one, right? Yep. So I'd pick that for my blue, and for my yellow I pick this and that. And well, I think I can hold down the control maybe and pick them both. No, it's not letting me. Newer version might. So I'm going to apply that, and then again do this one and that one, apply. Okay, so now this thing's cut from it, okay? So do all of them that need something like that. You can't have 2 bars going through each other. See how that bar is going through this one? So you got to do all that notching, do all that notching. All right. So I'm going to put a Phillip Weld down here. So I'm going to go ahead and do this one real quick, and then show you how to do some welds, and then you guys can come back and finish that up. So I'm going to notch this 4x4 tube with this one, or not, yeah, with this flat iron, and apply. Okay, so they ain't going through it. Now I'm going to go ahead and show you how to do some welds real quick. You can finish up notching and mitering later. Okay, the welds are pretty easy, if I can remember how to do it, hopefully. So you go to the weld tab, and let's weld this whole bottom. Okay, so let's weld the bottom. So there's the welds, alright? So you got to pick weld first of all, alright? Or picked weld. Then it gives me my options. Alright, I'm going to do a fillet weld. Okay, now usually the fillet weld, the main problem is if you do too big of one, it won't do it. So I'm going to do a 0.25 by 0.25, nice simple one. And if the weld doesn't fit, of course, then of course it won't let you do it. Sometimes it doesn't fit in there, so it won't do it. And it says 1, okay, so I'm going to pick this face. And I think there's a way to chain them together. Yeah, so I hit chain, it chained them all the way around. Okay, and then for 2, I'll pick this face. And look at that, I'm going to get a nice weld. Now if it doesn't work, usually when it fails, you won't see a preview like that. So I'm pretty happy that it's actually going to work. You could do an I'm going to mess that up. Intermittency. Okay, so I'm going to try a 1 and a 2 here. Okay, so now I've got a 1-inch weld every 2 inches, which is kind of cool, right? There's my distances. That's all good. I didn't want to do this distance. I wanted the X and the Y. Create weld symbol. You don't need to do that when you do your dimensions. Okay, hit apply. And that one's done. Okay, now I'm going to go up here and I'm going to do this, see if I can, you could do some more of fillet welds at that point. But we're going to do this groove one, so you know how to do a groove one if I can get it to work. Okay, so weld, groove. Now this one's a little trickier. Okay, I think you do need to hit full face and chain faces. Full face. And maybe the radial button, I really don't remember. So we're going to pick 1 here. And so you pick inside here, like there. And for the number 2, course, you pick the other one. That's going to hit that one. I got lucky. It actually worked first. It looks like it's going to work first try. So I was thinking you had to pick radial fill, but evidently not. And now I'm going to hit OK. Okay, so we got our groove weld to work too. Okay. So you got to do at least 6 of those welds. You really should probably do more of them. You got to miter and notch everything on this, and you got to put holes in the bottom of this. So I'm going to return back now and go back to the assembly. Okay, and to put the holes in this, you would double click on it like that. Okay, now I'm in this part. Okay, notice it says return at the top of my screen. Okay, so I'm in this part because I double clicked on it. Now I can do whatever the heck I want with it. I'm gonna right click on that. I guess I got to double click on it again. So I got into the frame generator, and I had to double click on it again to get in that part. Now I can probably have to double return to get out of it. New sketch on the top of it. Drill my 4 holes into it, save it, and get back out of it. So for instance, circle. Now I'm not going to put it in the right place. You need to put it in the right place. 1. Okay. And fully constrain it. Finish sketch. Right click. Extrude. Cut. All. Okay. So that's how you put a hole in it. Save it. Return. Probably return again. Return again. Now we're back into the main assembly. So you've got to do that. You've got to insert a bolt in there. So place from content center bolts. You should have all known how to do that by now. So make sure you put that in there. If you are using a server for the internet, remember a lot of times the bolts won't remember if you log back in later. So make sure you finish the drawing on the time that you put the bolts in, or you might have trouble with the build material. Okay. I think that's, we got to do a backboard too. So to create a backboard on it, and I think that's, and then the FEA analysis too. Okay, so the backboard on it is basically hit create, just call it what it is, backboard. Okay, hit OK, and it wants to know a face to put it on. So of course it's going to be right there on the front. Yep. And now you're in that backboard, so draw yourself a flat rectangle the size of this backboard and make it a 1/2 inch thick and tell it it's whatever material I told you, polycarbonate, and then that is made. Okay, so I'm going to save it. You can surely all make a flat piece of 1/2 inch metal around that backboard. I know you can. FEA analysis. Okay, you got to do FEA analysis on the front of that rim. So that would be environments. Oh, I got to return first. I must be in something else. Environments. Save it probably. Just all okay. Mine's not going to be right because it's going to be weak, but I'll show you in the video at least. So we got environments, stress analysis. How many pounds the rims will hold. Okay, so I'm going to create study. I'm going to say OK on the defaults. I'm going to lock the base down. So I'm going to constrain the base. Okay, this is going to be bolted solid and can't move, and hit OK. And I'm going to put a force on the front of it. So there's load, force. Make sure you expand it if it's not expanded. Use vector directions because it's going to be straight down, which is the Y direction according to this. So I'm going to put 100 pounds on there and see what safety factor I got, and that'll tell me how much it holds. Okay, probably a -100, right? It's going down. See if I can get right on the edge of that. I don't really like where that went. Cancel that. I'm getting 3 of them. Let's try again here. Force. It keeps putting it on that edge there. It is doing it across the whole thing though, it looks like. So I'd be okay with that, I guess. If you get it. The The only way to kind of take care of that is you'd basically open this up and maybe put a little flat across the top of it and put it right on the front, which would represent somebody like grabbing it and doing a slam dunk on the front. I'm not going to make you go through that, but that's how you would get around it. Is put a little hole in there or put a flat on top of it, something on it for an inventor to grab. Okay, so we hit OK here, and then you got to hit simulate, run, and then you look at safety factor and multiply your safety factor by 1, and that tells you how much it holds. Okay, make sure you do a full print with all the bill of material and all the parts. And I think that was it. Yep, that's everything. Okay, I got some crazy number on my FEA analysis, so I'm basically going to try to put a hole in this thing. So I double clicked on it twice and got into this part. Now I'm going to find a plane that dissects that, hopefully. There's one right there. New sketch on there from the origin, right? Now I'm going to draw a little circle right in the middle of that thing. It actually snapped to it, believe it or not. 0.25 circle. Right. Let's make it smaller than that, so it doesn't affect the analysis much. 0.0625, so 16th. Okay, so a little bitty hole in it. Finish sketch. Right click. Extrude. Cut. Both ways. All. Okay, now I should have a little bitty 16th hole in this thing. Okay, so save. Return. Return again. Go back to my it knows these two are assembled. It might not have realized these are together until I notch them. That might have been the problem too. So I'm going to run my analysis again and see what happens. Put it on that hole. So I'm back in the stress analysis, and it moved it over to here for some reason, but I'm going to go back into that load, that force, right click, edit force load, till it's right here. Okay. It's easier to probably just delete it than try to edit it. Negative 100 in the Y. There, that looks a lot better. Hit apply. Okay, it did throw up a bunch of warnings, but it ended up with on mine it ended up with about a 1.52 safety factor, so that'd be 152 pounds around the end it would hold. So it's actually stouter than you'd think. So yours should be similar to that, I think. Okay.